Clearwater, Tampa has 83 at News Radio 970 WFLA. Next news at 4, bulletins at once. I'm Ray Cullen.
Lassiter, News Radio 970 WFLA.
Tuesday, May the 2nd, 1989. A very good Tuesday to you. A very good Tuesday to you indeed. Going to do something today a little bit different than I've done before. I sometimes pride myself on my monologue, sometimes running 1, 2, 3, even 4 hours. We did one 4-hour monologue. Well, today we are going to try to do a program with as few words as humanly possible, at least get it off the ground. Now, before I give you the word and then the phone numbers, and that's literally all we're going to do, I hasten to point out to you that this particular topic is usually dominated by people on one side and not so much people on the other. And so you can do anything you want with it. I will give you the word. And I promise you it's not going to get any better than this. This is the word. The word will be there until 6 o'clock tonight. Do with it anything you want to do with it. And the word is guns. And the telephone number is 990-9352. 990-9352 in Hillsborough. 461-9352 in Pinellas. That's 461-9352 is the number in Pinellas. There is the practical joke line if you insist, 1-223-9797. That's 1-223-9797. The word, the topic for today's show is guns. Probably every day this week, we will simply have a one-word show. Okay? Guns. 990-9352 in Hillsborough. 461-9352 in Pinellas. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Of guns, there's one thing I'd like to mention as far as the 7-day holding period that seems to be such a big controversy. I cannot understand what is such a big deal about a 7-day holding period and why these pro-gun people are so against it and that they say their rights are being taken away. I don't think we'll ever see the day when you'll ban handguns or ban the sale of guns. I think we've just come too far beyond that. I think what we need to realize now is more try and control it. And many a murder have been committed by someone who has been in a fit of rage and run out to a store and literally just bought a gun in a 30-minute period. Maybe you can help me here, but I don't understand why they're so against running a check on someone having a 7-day holding period on a gun. If you're going on a vacation, if you're going on a hunting trip, you're not going to...
First of all, no sound sane people are, which include the overwhelming majority of the members of the National Rifle Association, are against a reasonable waiting period and a reasonable background check.
They're against the...
As I was saying, there are no sane people, including the vast majority of the NRA, who are opposed to such legislation. It is simply a handful of lunatics, professional gun junkies, who seem to be against this type of thing.
Okay, it was my understanding that the majority of the NRA was against this.
You're wrong.
Oh, so the NRA backs the 7-day waiting period?
No.
They do not back it, but...
The majority of members of the NRA do not speak for the NRA. Only a handful of people like Marion Hammer.
Oh, okay, so the lunatics who speak for them are totally against it, but that is not... Now, does the NRA not make an official stand on...
They sure do.
Oh, they do?
Sure do.
And their official stand?
You know what their official stand is?
No, on the 7-day holding period.
They're against it. They're against any kind of regulation for guns at all.
And that would be because the board members of the NRA have voted on that, not the majority?
Well, sir, the NRA is as democratic as the U.S. government is.
So how would it, the majority of the NRA...
Sir, I could have sworn I was in the middle of a sentence. And the majority of people in the NRA are as apathetic as the majority of Americans.
Mm-hmm.
So just a handful of people end up speaking for them. Just like it is in real life.
Okay. Well, it still doesn't make any sense to me because there's absolutely no reason in the world why there can't be a waiting period.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Guns. 990-9352 in Hillsborough. 461-9352 in Pinellas. Carolwood, hi, you're on the air.
Hi, I'd like to respond to that gentleman about the guns and the waiting period.
Go right ahead.
Okay. And I have a couple other comments, too. I'm a gun owner, and I'm a small female, so I figure that I need this for my protection. It has saved my life probably 3 times so far. I'm for and against the 7-day waiting
Could
period.
you tell us about the 3 times?
Oh, the 3 times? Can I finish about the 7-day waiting period first?
Well, you mentioned something, and I thought we were having a conversation here. Could you tell us about the 3 times? For example, did you report any of the 3 times to the police?
Let's see. The one occasion was 3 o'clock in the morning, and there was a gentleman on my window ledge of my second-story window.
Mm-hmm.
So when I turned around and brought out the gun, he took off running. I had just moved in.
From the second story, he took off running.
Yeah, he jumped down. There was a ledge over my porch outside, and he was up on top of that roof.
Jumped down 8-10 feet.
Right. Ran and stood behind a tree so I couldn't shoot him, which I wouldn't have anyway, but it has served as a deterrent at least 3 times.
Did you call the police?
No, I had just moved in and had no phone. I had no way to call anybody, and I had no curtains on the window, so he could see me, but I couldn't see out to see him.
Okay, what was the second time?
The second time was as a college student. I was sitting in an apartment studying, and someone had opened my sliding glass screen door. I had the windows open because it was summer and I didn't have the AC on.
Mm-hmm.
They had come into the house. I didn't think it was my screen door that had opened because it was an apartment complex, but I thought, well, just to be sure, I would go out and close it and lock it up just so I could go back to studying. And turned out I had locked the intruder in with me. But when I went back to studying, which I had taken my gun out when I went out to check the door, had not checked the rest of the house, which was highly unusual for me not to check the rest of it. Went and sat down with the gun next to me. During the next 20 minutes, finally the intruder did leave and left the door open behind him.
Mm-hmm.
I was not aware of who it was.
Did you report that to the police?
Yes. I thought nothing of it until my roommate came home and found the door open, and we didn't find anything missing, so apparently it avoided an attack on me and avoided the theft. And the third time was downtown. No, actually, I didn't have the gun then. That's what made me get the time. I can't remember the third time offhand, but the third time that I was almost killed was downtown Detroit in Michigan, where a gang of males hit the back of our car to get us to pull over, and then when we pulled over, they surrounded our car.
Mm-hmm.
And we raced at top speed, through lights, through wrong ways, whatever we had to do to get to the police station. And by that time, we had crossed the city line to the next city, and they would not do anything about it. They wouldn't even escort us home. So I went out at that point and got a gun, and I've had it ever since. And since I live as a single, I never have to worry about my security. It's there with me, traveling to and from work, in the house, and I keep it with me at all times. I never worry about my security. It's not the answer. It's not the best answer because of the fact that a bullet travels too far. What we really need is more like a taser, I think is what it's called, the electric gun that has a shorter range and that can't go through walls and windows and hurt some innocent person.
Mm-hmm.
But as a apartment dweller, I've just made some rules for myself as to never shoot toward a window, shoot toward a wall, have a wall behind the person I'll be shooting at if I can. If I'm on a second floor, I will try to get lower and shoot upward, and if I'm on a first floor, I'll do the opposite. I will try to shoot downward so there's a minimal chance of it getting
Can I ask you
beyond.
something about that first instance again? It was relatively late at night. You said this.
3 o'clock in the morning, I had come home from work and passed these 2 guys outside, and they looked a little strange.
No,
but
I'm talking about on the second story.
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
That's correct.
And your lights were on.
Yes, my lights were on. I was going through a photo album, and they had crawled up, and I think they were trying to enter the apartment next to mine. And I heard the scuffling sound on the roof as their shoes were on the gravel of the roofing tile. So, and that was it. They took off running, and I didn't have a phone and wasn't about to go outside at that point to get out of the nearest payphone to call the police. So I just let it be known the next day
So you
what
did
happened.
have a gun.
Yeah, I did have a gun, and I could have always screamed for help, but in this day and age, who's likely to come out and help you if you scream even? I've known people that have witnessed a rape in process, and all they did was lock their doors, close their drapes, and sit there quietly because they were afraid that they would anger the rapist and have them just come and get them.
Thank you very much.
May I still make my one comment about the 7-day waiting?
Yes, okay. I'm sorry. Yes, I did that.
I am for that because of the fact that it does check out people's backgrounds. But in one case of a friend of mine who had an abusive boyfriend who came to shoot her one night and also was going to shoot the friends that were in the vicinity, those friends, like a guy friend that she had, he went out the next day and got a gun for his protection because his life had been threatened. If there had been a 7-day waiting period, what would he have done? It turned out he didn't need it, but I think for our protection sometimes we need it. Also, on my way to Texas, I was robbed, and they took my gun along with my jewelry, my clothes, and everything else I owned. I went out immediately and had my sister in Texas buy me another one on the spot before I would even resume my car travels, because I don't want to be on the road without it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Take care. Guns, 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in the other place. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I think the people who are trying to put the restriction on the type of weapon you can own are not so much trying to save lives as they're just trying to ban guns because they don't like guns. If they were trying to save lives, then they're... Yes.
There are tens of millions of guns in existence today, and everybody knows that it is an utter impossibility to recall them. Everybody knows that. No one has ever suggested recalling all the guns in this country. No one with an ounce of brains in his head.
Well, I believe that it's just an effort to try and curtail the proliferation of handguns.
Even though you know it's an impossibility.
It's an impossibility, yes. But I believe those who would advocate a ban on handguns, that's what they're trying to achieve.
Sir, who has advocated a ban on handguns?
Well, what's the organization that's been running spots
That's what I'm asking for, sir. Who has advocated the absolute banning of handguns?
Who's Mrs. Baker? Mrs. Jim Baker.
Mrs. Jim Baker.
Yes.
Oh.
Jim Brady, I'm sorry, Jim Brady.
Mm-hmm.
The ex-press secretary for Mr. Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
She has advocated a ban on handguns.
I believe she has, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe it's a little bit closer to the truth that they're talking about not so much a ban on handguns, but a good, thorough check on who the hell gets them.
That's part of it. But she is advocating a ban on handguns. It can't be
one way. It's got to be one way or the other, sir. We're either for banning handguns or we're for making damn sure we know who they're getting, who's getting them. Now, which one do you think that she's actually advocating? Mike, do you have the spot handy? I could be wrong. You don't have it. You don't have it handy?
Are you still talking to me or your producer?
Talking to my producer. See if we can't drag that out and find out exactly what it says.
Okay. May I continue?
No, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. Because I believe if their effort was truly to save lives, then there would be registration for, say, alcohol. There'd be less alcohol in the bottle of booze.
Sir, that's a bunch of crap.
Come on.
You cannot in any shape, manner, or form try to draw an analogy between a bottle of booze and a bullet.
How many murders are committed by people who have not had 1 ounce to drink?
Sir, there is no analogy to be drawn between a bottle of booze and a bullet.
I think there is.
I'm sure that all of those people who committed murders also drank coffee and ate cookies, too, sir.
I'm also as sure as you are that most people who commit murder have 2 or 3 drinks before they go out and do it.
I doubt it much, sir, but neither you nor I have actual statistics on it.
It would be a good statistic to look into. I will also tend to guess that people who commit suicide are also under the influence of alcohol.
Yeah.
Many people.
Yeah.
Also, if people really wanted to save lives, then they would put governors on the big car engines.
I'll bet everybody that commits murder with a handgun, sir, also has 10 toes, so let's chop everybody's toes off.
I didn't say everybody.
Some kind of correlation there, too.
I guess good balance makes you commit murder, then.
What's that mean, sir?
Well, you suggested chopping toes off. I didn't.
Oh.
If people really wanted to save lives, then I guess Lincolns would be banned from the road because they're too big and they go too fast. They kill more people.
Oh, I see.
The issue is not saving lives. The issue is banning weapons.
No, sir, the issue is taking weapons out of the hands of people, perhaps like yourself, who aren't quite mature enough and who have to make things up as they're going along.
I've not made a thing up.
Well, sir, what's the name of that organization again that's trying to ban all guns?
You seem to have the information. Do you know?
No, sir, I know of no such organization. And the spot that was running is no longer in the control room, so we assume that spot has been pulled because the contract is over. But I know of no organization, sir, that has suggested that all guns be banned.
I'm sure as the 3 hours go along,
that doesn't make
someone would be able to tell us.
That doesn't make a damn bit of difference to you or to your beloved NRA, does it?
I'm not in the NRA.
Do you like the NRA, sir?
I am not an NRA member.
Do you like the NRA, sir?
Pardon?
Do you like the NRA?
I don't like some of their stands.
Do you, for the most part, sir, like the NRA?
For the most part.
Well, then, sir, I stand on you and your beloved NRA.
They're not my beloved NRA.
You and the beloved NRA, your beloved NRA,
You're lying.
have utterly no problem whatsoever, sir.
You're a liar.
Trying to scare people. Where have I lied, sir?
You said I'm a member of the beloved NRA.
No, I didn't say you were a member of it, sir. I said nothing of the kind.
You said it was my beloved NRA.
Yes, your
Do you
beloved
know the
NRA.
definition of beloved?
That's my opinion, sir. Your beloved NRA.
Your opinion
That's
is
not a lie. I
mistaken.
have not said that you are a member of the NRA. I've not stated a fact, sir, except your beloved NRA, in my opinion.
You are mistaken.
Beloved of the NRA.
You're mistaken.
You've already told me that you basically agree with them.
You're mistaken.
But you've already told me, sir, that you basically agree with them.
It's not my beloved anything.
Well, sir, in my opinion, it is.
Well, you're mistaken.
No, I'm not mistaken, sir. That's my opinion.
My opinion is you're mistaken.
I would be mistaken, sir, had I stated it as fact.
You stated it as your opinion, and I'm stating it in my opinion. You are mistaken.
You're a jerk.
Listen to Ted Webb Sports Huddle every weeknight from 6 to 8 p.m. for the straight scoop. Like when Buck's number...
Find it before the afternoon is out. Somewhere in this building is the original master, or whatever it might be, of these so-called gun control spots, because I don't really know for a fact what it says. I believe I know for a fact what these people are all about, but we will play the spot sometime before the afternoon is over, and we'll all find out exactly what it says. St. Petersburg Beach. Saint, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, you got me. Okay, now I've got my point to put into it. First off, the 7-day cooling off period is a bunch of baloney. The people who are going to go out and commit crimes, like the guy that did it in California with an AK-47, who claimed to be a veteran and all that, he was never a veteran.
Nobody ever suggested that wouldn't have happened, sir, if there was a 7-day cooling off period.
Yeah, well, anyway, with a 7-day cooling off period...
Sir, nobody ever suggested. So if you want to bring that into the conversation, then it has to be brought into the conversation as well, that no one ever suggested that crime would not have happened.
No, that's right.
So it is. So what you're saying is totally irrelevant.
I know it is, because California has a 15-day cooling off period.
Well, that's what I'm here for, sir, is to make damn sure that what you say is relevant.
Okay, so bring relevance to it. I don't believe in a cooling off period, first off. Secondly, I do own a gun. I own a .22 caliber Marlin I've had for over 30 years, and I do not own a handgun, a rifle, or a shotgun other than that. Although, however, I put 26 years in the military, and I put 3 years in Vietnam and 2 years in Korea, so I do know how to use one. The criminals are going to get their guns, no matter what. If we banned handguns, everybody...
There are very few people are killed by people with criminal records. Most people are killed by their next-door neighbors and friends and family.
This is true.
You know all that. True.
I was also a deputy sheriff for 3 years up in Oregon, so I understand that part also. So we really don't have an honest solution to it. And our lawmakers keep going around and round the wrong way. I would love to vote for somebody who's going to go up there and eliminate about half of the extraneous laws we have. I'd love to do that. But, no, guns themselves are not the evil thing. It's the people who use them. And if they're accessible or inaccessible, it doesn't make any difference. Someone will find some way to do damage. Many people are knifed, clubbed to death, and so forth.
Right, sir, except that, as you well know, it's much harder to club someone to death. You've got to be right there next to them. The person also stands a fair chance of fighting you off. You can't club somebody to death from, half a block away.
That's true.
Yeah, I know it's true. So therefore, what you're saying again about the guns not being evil, the people being evil, and, they get a club, is again irrelevant and untrue, and really has nothing whatsoever to do with the conversation.
Okay, sir. Well, let me try to get back on the line a little bit, what you brought up on the guns. And by the way, you do an excellent job, and I
by the way, I
really
didn't bring up anything on guns. All I said was guns.
Yeah, guns in general. And that covers a hell of a multitude, doesn't it?
And I also point out to you that I have given a great deal of grief to people on both sides of the issue when they got off the track into things that just were.
Yeah, I understand, and I appreciate you because you are an exceptionally good moderator. And
I'm not a moderator, sir.
Well, in a way you are, really. But thank you anyway. Guns, like shotguns, there's your best home defense weapon there is, but any handgun. You get a little short-barreled shotgun in your room, and you will not go penetrate through the walls of next door and so forth, like that lady who talked about her handgun. This has something to do with it. But beside the point, guns in themselves, when you have cooling off periods like what our legislature has done, this is a wasted effort. And people who already have guns, people who will commit murder in their family, they've had that gun for 20 years in the closet.
Well, let me ask you this. Let us assume that sometime during the course of the next year, and I think this is a reasonable assumption, one person in the state of Florida will go to a gun shop, pick up a gun, and within an hour kill someone. I mean, we have actually seen this happen in this past year, but let us assume that will happen one time in the upcoming 12 months.
Well, that's in the same thing.
Is that life, sir, that would be lost? Is that life worth enough to you for a 7-day cooling off period that would have prevented that particular murder?
It's only problematical that it would have prevented it. It's the same thing as
sir, it's
putting
a relatively easy sir, it's a relatively easy question. It's a yes or no type question. Is a 7-day cooling off period worth it to you to save that one life?
Well, It would be worth it if that was a fact.
I assume, sir, that your answer is no. It is not worth it to you, since you are trying to avoid answering the question. Yes or no.
I'm not trying to really
answer the
avoid
question.
it.
Yes or no.
No, I don't think the cooling off period is the answer.
Sir, answer the question. Yes or no. Is that life worth it?
The life is worth it, of course.
Then you are in favor of the 7-day cooling off period.
No, I'm not.
Then the life is not worth it. Thank you ever so much, sir. So hard sometimes to get people to answer their questions. The spot is queued up and ready to go. Okay, we will all listen to the spot, this time probably for the first time.
Remember when we used to call Florida the Sunshine State? When you and your family could walk down the street at night and you felt safe? Now even the police aren't safe. Armed robberies, murders, drug shootouts. Today they call Florida the Gunshine State. Isn't it time to do something? We can. This Thursday, Florida legislators are voting on 2 bills that will do something. One, House Bill 497, requires a 7-day waiting period for handgun purchases. The other, House Bill 573, would ban the sale of military-style assault weapons. But the hardcore gun lobby is working furiously to defeat the legislation. Well, isn't it time our lawmakers heard from you instead of the National Rifle Association? Please, contact your state legislator at 904-488-1234. Voice your support for a ban on assault weapons and a waiting period for handgun purchases, because we have to take back our streets. Paid for by Handgun Control, Incorporated.
Well, I think that spot speaks for itself, doesn't it? I guess we'll go back 2 or 3 calls ago to the gentleman who was referring to me as the liar. The gentleman who said that we had even been running ads for the ban. I believe that's what he said. Isn't that what he said? We've been running ads for the banishment of guns. Did you want to call back in and apologize, sir? I think probably not. One line available in each county, 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in Pinellas. Clearwater. Hi, Clear. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, Bob.
Afternoon.
You know, Handgun Control seeks to pass federal legislation, which would mean a waiting period, background check, various things, mandatory jail sentence, a license to carry law, a gun, to have a special license to carry a handgun. It does not ever say that they're looking to ban handguns. They have restrictions on the sale of Uzu-type assault weapons. So I was responding to that gentleman who called about, I guess, three calls ago. The one who was talking about the fact that Handgun Control wants to eliminate guns, which is a total lie. And another thing, as far as criminals are concerned, yes, it's true. Criminals do commit crimes. But the majority of murders that are committed are either done by accident, with children, or in a fit of rage, or you name it. I think it's something like 240 to 1, where actually a crime has been prevented, or a murder through a criminal has been prevented, and 240 accidents or fit of passion, or you name it. And I don't understand the American people. This absolute fascination with guns. I mean, why on earth can't we have waiting periods so that we would have a chance to check out the individual, whether they're mentally competent, whether they have a record. Now, granted, they will get their guns maybe another way, but if we can just make it one bit harder, just a tiny bit harder. And then another thing, too many people are leaving guns around the homes. They're not locked up. For years we have done away or made it unlawful to have freezers or refrigerators or washers or dryers, without removing the doors out in the backyards or whatever. We have made that illegal. But yet we will actually allow people to leave unloaded guns laying around so that kids can get to them. They play with them. They cannot differentiate many times from a real gun or a play gun. And, why can't we just give it a chance? Let's give it a chance. I mean, we can look at statistics in other countries, whether it's Japan, whether it's Germany, whether it's Great Britain, Canada, Australia. You have such very, very low figures, like 8 in Great Britain, 6 in Canada, 35 in Japan, and then we have something like 20,000 in the United States, and that's probably a lot higher these days. Why can't we try it?
I thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in the other place. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello, Bob. Hello.
Go ahead.
Hey, listen, as far as the NRA, 7 days ain't too much to wait at all for anything. But for the people that favor lots more gun control, I never hear anybody talking about making it illegal to manufacture or sell any firearms or to manufacture and sell any ammunition for them. Since the United States is the biggest arms merchant in the world, you know that people that own all the stock in them big companies, they don't want to even hear any talk like that. But if we really want control, let's make it illegal to manufacture or to sell guns or ammo. What do you think about that?
I'm not here to think today, sir. Thank you very much. 2 lines available in Hillsborough, 990-9352, 990-WFLA. Real simple one for you today. Guns. You fill in the rest. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yeah, Bob, how you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Yeah, Bob, on this certain amount of days, cooling off period, I don't think there should be any set number of days. I think that if it takes a year to do a thorough background check on somebody, I think that that's the way it should be. I mean, why put down a 7-day cooling off period if you can't get all the information on someone's background?
Gee, isn't it kind of interesting that a lot of the people who, of course, are in favor of guns are also in favor of things like drug testing? And they want people to take a drug test to get a driver's license in the state of Florida, but I don't think anyone has ever suggested a drug test for buying a gun.
Yeah, that makes a heck of a lot of sense to me. Let's see here. Concerning that woman who called a few calls back about all these times in her life where she's been in danger, I'm 28 years old and I've lived in Tampa almost all my life. I've never had a situation like that, so I don't know what kind of lifestyle she's living. But, well, that's all I had to say, Bob.
Thank you much. 990-9352 in Hillsborough. St. Petersburg, St. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hey, good afternoon, Lassiter.
Good afternoon.
I'll tell you, I got problems with the whole gun control situation here. The 7-day waiting period I cannot support.
Why not?
Because, now correct me if I'm wrong, I have heard nothing about what they intend to do with that waiting period besides wait.
To the best of my knowledge, that's all. It's wait.
Now,
it's a cooling off period.
Now, I don't disagree. We do have to get a handle on the situation here. But I think just the waiting period for a waiting period's sake it's given us a false sense of security.
I agree.
It's accomplishing nothing.
I totally agree.
Now, I don't support any kind of a waiting period, 3 days, 7 days. But if there's going to be a legitimate, bona fide investigation performed on a potential purchaser of that weapon, I don't care if the waiting period is 9 months. Does that make sense to you?
So it's fine with me, although I could probably, if really forced to, make an argument that an American citizen has a right to purchase whatever is available to other American citizens.
Well, then we get down to the right to bear arms. Now, it depends on how you look at it. I don't think the Constitution gives me, as an individual, the right to own a weapon. It gives the state the right to have an organized militia which can own weapons.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I see it. However, I don't like to say that out loud in front of so many people. Do you know what I mean, Bob?
Well, it's, as I just mentioned, I can make a very, very strong argument for why one citizen can buy something and another citizen can't buy something. An incredibly strong argument. So, therefore, maybe the real answer is that we shouldn't have such items available to anyone.
Well,
maybe that's the answer.
I'll tell you, now, there are millions of them out there. They're going to be available. Now, I have a plan in mind that I think would do more to protect us from what we fear than the present skitter-scatter of all these laws and waiting periods and nebulous things that really do nothing. And we have the machinery in place to do this. I think anyone who plans to purchase any kind of a weapon should go to the police station, register his intent, much like we apply for the license to carry a concealed weapon. The machinery is there. The purchaser pays the price of the investigation. The FBI search into the background, and I would not even be adverse to a psychological examination. At the point when the investigation is completed and it's this person is deemed responsible enough to own a weapon.
Who's going to deem that?
Well, the machinery is in there. One of the problems with this waiting period.
Well, wait a second. Do you want some of the crackerjack sheriffs in the state of Florida to be making that decision?
Well, who's making it now? The fact is, no one is really making it. There is no bona fide investigation performed on any purchase of any weapon, handgun, shotgun, nothing. When you go in and fill out the yellow paper in the gun shop, that just goes in the file.
I know.
No one even picks them up for months on end.
I don't believe they are ever picked up. They're just occasionally audited. Just to make sure that the store is keeping the record.
And part of the reason is the system is so damn top-heavy. They're trying to register each individual weapon. Where if we would license the purchasers of the weapons to determine through standards have to be made. The person should be psychologically able to handle the responsibility of owning something that kills things. And besides that, and further, after the investigation, the license to purchase and own weapons should be in a form like a passport with your picture and identification on it and pages on the inside.
Thank you very much.
Lassiter, could I finish up?
Well, you got to be quick, please.
Okay. Now, in order to leave that store with the weapon you purchase, you should be qualified. You should have fired that weapon, and that page is stamped that you are qualified to own a .357 Magnum or a shotgun or an Uzi or whatever it is that you're to purchase. But they can't just be
Of course, that's only good for today because the circumstances can change tomorrow. I mean, you might bang your head on your way home on the car door. So that all that paperwork and all those precautions are only good for today. It's kind of like testing for AIDS.
Okay, I'll give you that. It's kind of like testing for AIDS, but at least it's something. It's better than what we have now with just a 7-day waiting, cooling off period.
Thank you very much, Al.
Thank you, Lassiter.
Take care.
News Radio 970 WFLA.
I think probably since the first time I started in this business, I can totally and completely recap what the show is all about today, and I will do so for you right now. Guns. Anything you want to say about them. Clearwater, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
How you doing, Dave?
It's Bob.
Excuse me, I'm thinking someone else.
I know.
I was just on the phone with someone else, that's why, but name Dave. Excuse me, sir.
No problem.
Okay, first-time caller, long-time listener, first time I had a time to give a call to you. Okay, I agree with you. Yes, the 7-day period is worth it if it saves one life, but then again, like you said before, a couple calls ago, will really make all the difference. And he said the 7-day period does not, from what I understand, does not include the weekends. So actually it's 9 days, if I'm correct, for the waiting period. Will it work? I don't know. Also, when you asked about what's legal for one person to buy should be legal for everyone to buy. What if a guy who was convicted of felony and he was 18 years old, didn't know what the hell he was doing, was convicted for a felony? Okay, 20 years later, 38 years old, has a wife and kids, and he wants to buy a gun. A lot has changed. He might have been a model citizen since then. And
so what? So what if he was a model citizen since then? A felony is a very, very serious offense, and while no one should have to wear a hair shirt, I think we might be reasonable as citizens to assume that someone who at one point in his life was so irresponsible, so careless, so thoughtless of another person's safety or life, to hell with him. Why should he have a gun?
20 years later?
40 years later, so what? 60 years later, so what?
Bob, haven't you done something? I know I have in my past that I'm ashamed of, that I thought that was hurtful of someone else.
Oh, my God, I've done lots of things I'm ashamed of.
But, do you think
a couple that I would actually deny having done.
Okay, but do you think that's enough to deny you from protecting your family?
I think it's enough to, in some cases, call into question my entire integrity.
That's true. There's nothing wrong with calling into question. I'm not saying you should just deny it without looking at the circumstances. Also, the commercials had handguns only. 7-day waiting period for handguns.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't say of all guns. If someone really wants to kill somebody, I gotta wait 7 days for a handgun? All right, give me a shotgun. Give me something else. Can a guy walk out with a hunting rifle that same day?
Sure can, as far as I know.
So, I mean, if I'm dead serious about killing someone, excuse the pun, dead serious, but, I mean, you know. Also, TJ was calling a while back about guns around the house and, you know, accidents caused by that. You know, it's just like having the child-proof caps. You know, it's like the government has to protect the people from themselves. And, you know, you got a lot of older people who do not have the manual dexterity of a child to open those child-proof caps. I mean, it's just something else. All I'm saying is that people have to take responsibility for themselves. And you said, what's a solution? Well, it's like a solution to everything else, is that everyone's trying to pawn off responsibility. It's not their own responsibility anymore. If you do something against law, you're going to jail. You can't plead out. You can't do all the other stuff they're doing today. It's your fault. And no one's, they're putting the responsibility on TV, this or that. I mean, it's in your mind. You've got to make the decision. And as far as curing the problem, I just say is that, you know, when a kid knows that he's going to get hit for something, now, at the very moment that he just made the mistake or did something wrong, that is a deterrent. But when you do it 2 3 days later from now, he probably knows you'll forget about it that time. Using that kind of logic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Be good. Ray Collins standing by at the WFLA News Desk. Ray?
Thanks, Bob. A sentence handed down in Tampa.
Again, it is Tarpon Springs. Hi, Tarpon. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yeah, Bob, I had a couple things for you. In Switzerland, they have a 1-year compulsory military service, after which the person takes the gun home. And they don't seem to have a problem with their guns like we do here. I think it's the mentality. And another thing was...
Well, a couple of things with what you're saying. Let's finish your thought there.
Oh, okay.
First of all, we're talking about rifles. And secondly, almost everybody in Switzerland owns their own home. A remarkably high percentage of home ownership in Switzerland.
That's
so
right.
It's a totally different mentality.
Oh, okay. That's what I agree with you there. But I was wondering, you know, gun control didn't work too well in Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union.
There isn't gun control in the Soviet Union.
That's what I mean. You're not allowed to have the gun.
You're wrong.
Excuse me?
You're wrong.
Oh, I saw a bumper sticker a few days ago that just said what I just said.
Well, maybe so, sir, but bumper stickers are frequently also wrong.
Okay.
I would remind you of a news item just about 2 weeks ago where during some civil unrest in one of the Soviet provinces, the police called in the guns. Because you are allowed to own guns.
No, I meant back in the 30s when the regime was getting started. In the 20s.
Well, actually it was the teens.
Yeah, 17.
But you are allowed to own guns in the Soviet Union.
Okay. Well,
another lie, by the way, from the NRA.
Okay. I guess I was pretty susceptible to that. But if our government did experience a hostile takeover, don't you think it's a good idea? I agree with the waiting period, and I agree that I don't think that the police should be outgunned out there.
Sir, there is the thought of grandmothers and wives and wimps trying to fend off the foreign aggression with guns is ludicrous. It's so silly as to be not even thinkable.
Okay, but I do agree that there should just be handguns and maybe hunting rifles allowed. I don't agree in the fully automatic weapons. They should be taken off because those are just people killers.
Well, what are handguns?
Well, I think that those, if you buy a handgun, at least you're not able to outgun the police, and I think it's more feasible. You don't need an Uzi to defend your home. I think a handgun will do the trick when you're indoors.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Be good. One line available. It's in Pinellas, 461-9352. The topic, guns. Anything you want to say about them? Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Well, I just wanted to say that my father used to have a saying that locking your doors doesn't keep thieves out. It prevents honest folks from becoming thieves. And I think it's kind of the same idea with guns. A criminal who's really bent on getting a gun will manage to do it, but I think that it prevents people, normally honest people who would want to commit a crime of passion from doing that if they had a 7-day waiting period.
An interesting thought. Very interesting thought.
And that's really all I had to say.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Doesn't it just make you feel like a real you-know-what when a young person comes up with something so nice and clear and concise that makes so much sense? St. Petersburg, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Fine.
Yes, I have no problem with a 7-day waiting period. You can make it a 30-day waiting period. Investigate the people thoroughly. I have no problem about that. I could, I think, take the devil advocate's position, quite frankly, and give a good argument, though, for people being able to own guns. And this may seem like a off-the-wall non sequitur to you, but I think you have to think a little bit, and you might see the relationship. I would hope that never, never, never in this country we would be forced, we'd be faced with a situation that, for instance, the Palestinians right now face in the Middle East, in which we can watch, especially a few months ago, watch on television, watch them getting their hands broken, watch their homes being razed, the atrocities that they're being faced with, quite frankly. Now, there may be a few guns here and there in the Palestinian homeland. By the way, I'd like to really investigate the thing you said about the Soviet Union. I would be very surprised to find that in Moscow, let's say, that handguns are accessible.
I didn't use the word handguns at all. I said guns.
I'd really like to investigate that on how accessible rifles are in Moscow. I'm going to see if I do a little research on that. I'll be very surprised to find that they're accessible. You may be able to get one after a 4-year wait, whatever. But the thing about it is, it goes back, my argument, or not argument, my devil's advocate position basically is, Jesus, is one thing being mugged by a thief, by someone that you can retaliate against. It's another thing being mugged by your own government. And it can't happen here.
Do you think, sir, that there's any possibility that a group of citizens in a particular neighborhood with the usual commercial guns available to them would be any offense or any defense, rather, whatsoever to a modern military machine? I mean, do you really think, sir, that a bunch of people sitting around with 45s and 38s and 357s and 22s are going to hold off a modern military machine for 5 seconds?
No, but that doesn't refute my argument. What's happening in Israel today is not always a modern military regime. I don't know how much you read, but quite frankly, every day...
well, sir, I would like to think that the...
Hey, Bob, you interrupted me.
Shut up. I would like to think...
Hey. Now...
I would like to think, sir, I'll complete the conversation without you, that the American military is far, far greater and far stronger than the Israeli military. So, sorry, guy. And don't ever tell me how to run my own show. It really... if I don't listen to the people that pay me, what the hell makes you think I'm going to listen to you? Welcome back there, fun seekers. 9.5 minutes after the hour of 4 o'clock. Real simple, easy show today. I mean, hardly anything at all for you to think about. The show is guns. Anything you want to say about guns. I mean, you want to talk about cleaning them. You want to talk about perhaps using them against your wife or whatever it might be. Guns. The rest is up to you. 2 lines available. Both of them are in Pinellas. Obviously, the talk in the last hour got the people in Pinellas very excited. Many of them just got up and ran out to their local gun shops. So there are 2 lines available there at 461-9352, 461-WFLA. St. Petersburg. Hi, St. You're on the air at 970.
Hello, Bob?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad I'm on the air. I've been entertained, I've been informed by what your radio audiences have to say about gun control. But so far as I'm concerned, what difference does it make outside of being informative and educational? If these same people, I don't know how many have called you while you've been on the air, maybe 20, 30, would write to their legislators, or if they would make a phone call. I think it may be a little too late to write because a commercial said something about they're going to vote on Thursday, and I wasn't sure whether that was in Tallahassee or Washington. It's a very simple thing to do if I can tell you how, or tell them how.
No, sir. Anybody that wants to can look it up in the front of the phone book.
That's right, in the blue pages. And that's all I have to say. Just have a good afternoon and a good evening.
Take care. 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in Pinellas. Actually, that's the only place there are lines available. 461-9352. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello, Bob.
Hi.
Hey, as an ex-NRA member, I
definitely think that a cooling off period is needed only if they do an investigation. Now, I hate to see them voting on this in Tallahassee. It should be voted on in Washington, D.C. They should scrap the majority of the state gun laws because they vary from city to county to state all across this country. And I think it should be all across the board the same. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. For example, in the state of North Dakota, I went down to purchase a firearm for hunting. It was a pistol, rather big pistol. And I was quite quickly informed that I didn't have the proper form from the Ward County Sheriff's Department, which was a pistol permit, which I had to go down and get before I could do anything with any type of gun. We're talking, he would not put it on layaway. He wouldn't even talk to me about a pistol until I showed up with this form from the Sheriff's Department. So I went down to the county courthouse and filled out the application, paid my money. And this has been several years ago, and it was either a week, maybe 10 days later, in the mail, here comes my little card. So I take it down to my friendly neighborhood gun store, and there's no problem. This card was also...
Could we make the story a little bit more concise?
As to what? I wanted to buy a .44 Magnum pistol.
Well, I appreciate that, but we don't need all of the details. You know, I went home, and it was a gray, cloudy day, and sooner or later the mailman arrived. And...
Okay, anyway, I mean, like, just until you had this form, the man didn't want to talk to you, didn't want to... Florida have one. We don't need Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Indiana, Ohio. They don't need their gun laws. No, we need a national, equal across the board. We need one federal firearms legislation.
Thank you much. 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in Pinellas. I must be honest with you. All of those lines that I spoke of, they all dropped off. The Von Ortner is in pathetic shape at this particular point in time. It was much better during the newscast. It is not doing well now. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Tampa, this is Florence, Tampa?
Yep.
Okay, Bob. I wanted to ask. I'll agree. Wait that 7 days. I don't like guns, but what I wanted to do is to ask you a question. If you're an elderly, a grandmother, a disabled, what kind of protection can you have? Can you find a remedy, or is there any way you can get a sedation gun? You know, those little pellets that you can put them to sleep and not kill them?
I believe they're illegal in the state of Florida.
They're illegal?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what I wanted to know.
And things of that nature.
But I don't like guns, but what is
It's amazing, you know, like mace is illegal. Mace, of course, basically makes you cry a lot, but bullets that'll take your head off, they're perfectly legal in the state of Florida.
I don't want that. But I was just wondering why you couldn't use that. But you answered my question. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. 990-9352 in Hillsborough. Guns. 461-9352 in Pinellas. Guns. Let's see here. That's the situation? Okay. St. Petersburg. Hi, St. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Good morning. Good afternoon, Robert.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm all in favor of a 7-day waiting period, except they shouldn't be waiting. There should be a background investigation. I think the FBI could utilize their time better than following little children around that are doing school reports with computers and accusing them of communists. They could be checking these people just like what's his name out in California. And then they would have known what his priors were. Now, but the real point, I don't believe everybody is understanding it. I was just reading up on this ban, all of these bills that they want to pass, and they're not only talking about assault rifles, they're talking about 12-gauge shotguns from 12-gauge on up to 28-gauge, and any other shotgun that holds 5 rounds. They're talking about your semi-automatic handguns.
Sir, you can enter any kind of legislation before the legislature that you want to. However, of the bills that are given any kind of a chance at all, we're not talking about banning 12-gauge shotguns.
Well, Well, from my understanding, they're talking about 45s, 9 millimeters, the whole 9 yards.
Sir, you can enter any kind of legislation you want. I will repeat it. I mean, for example, you could put before the Florida State Legislature legislation that would require all the people in the state of Florida to join the Communist Party. But it wouldn't stand much of a chance of passing, would it?
No, I doubt it.
Well, so all the legislation that you're referring to, sir, stands zero chance of passing. Zero.
Well, it's my opinion.
And by the way, that five, it's not a matter of opinion, sir. It's a matter of fact. And by the way, that 5 clip that you spoke of is now up to a 20 clip.
Oh, I see.
But,
well, there's going to be a lot of people that'll be upset if anything like that ever did go through. A lot of people.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Take care. Yes, I guess there'd be a lot of people, sir, that would be very upset if that legislation requiring everyone to join the Communist Party went through, too. I guess there'd be a lot of people, sir, very upset if the legislation never went through that required all males to have sex change or, operations. It just, so what? Tampa, you're on there at 970 WFLA.
Yes, Bob.
Yeah.
My name's Barry, and
Don't need your name, don't want it.
Hello?
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Bob, and you said you wanted to know anything about guns. Well, yesterday I was in a gun shop in St. Petersburg, and I was there getting my shotgun fixed. I like to shoot, trap, and ski. And while I was there, 6 black youths walked into the store, ranging in age from about 15 to 20. And the first thing out of their mouth is, one of them is to say, he wants some 32 automatic ammunition. The man gets him his ammunition, and he says, well, I want hollow points. Then the next one steps up to the counter, and he says, I want 2 boxes of AK-47 ammunition. And then he says, I want hollow points. Well, they don't make them in hollow points. It's a military weapon. But then there's talking about penetrating. They want to be able to penetrate vests.
Sir?
Yes.
Didn't you say between the ages of 15 and 20?
Excuse me, between 15 and 20.
Is it not the law in the state of Florida that you have to be 21 to purchase ammunition?
Well, as I say, the ages of the youths, what I looked
Sir,
at them...
is it not the law in the state of Florida that you have to be 21 to purchase ammunition?
I think it's 18. I may be wrong.
It's 21. I may be wrong.
I don't know for sure. So, now they're obviously sitting there. They're joking around the drug trade on top of it. And then on top of it, they're talking about penetrating bulletproof vests. So I turned to the owner of the store, and I look at him, and I said, you got to be kidding. I mean, you're actually going to sell this stuff to these guys. And he nodded his head, and, and he went ahead and he made the sale to him. And I think a lot of what happens today is because there's no responsibility for the actions of what one does. And I think, these store owners, when it's absolutely obvious of what's going on, got to hold some restrainers of the almighty dollar over selling them this ammunition and stuff.
By the way, sir, what color are you?
I'm white.
Well, why didn't you mention it?
Didn't see that it was relevant in this particular case, but I'm white.
Then why was it relevant to the youths who walked in were black?
Because they walked in a gang motion.
Oh, in a gang motion.
In a gang motion. They were all over the store. And as the store owner said to me, he says, we got plan A and plan B for these kind of things. He says plan A is they all stay together is fine, we talk to them. If plan B, they scatter out over the store, somebody loads a weapon and stands there. I mean, you can't close your eyes to reality, even though it's not
Does
safe.
it have a plan A1 and a plan A2?
It might be.
For white youths who walk in a gang-like motion?
Obvious, I guess in the eyes of the owners of the store, that they didn't think it doesn't happen that often in that manner.
Thanks ever so much.
Okay.
Take care there. Oh, not already. Oh, mercy, mercy, mercy.
Hi, Bob.
Hey, Gary. Gosh, golly gum, I've been waiting all afternoon to hear from you. Gary, people have been calling in off the air. People have been stopping by downstairs in the office.
Yeah?
Boys have been coming over here saying, golly, gee whiz, what's the traffic like this afternoon? And I've been saying to them, hey, it won't be long now to our very own Gary McHenry, the world's most dangerous air traffic reporter, will be by with a WFLA airborne traffic report.
Is that right, Bob?
No, it's not right,
No,
Gary. It's not even close to true.
I didn't figure.
Disgusting.
I'm going to come into the studio. I'm going to come into the studio in a gang motion. You watch it. We had the earlier problem on the Howard Franklin Bridge. Just a momentary breakdown.
970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob. The legislation for Thursday, is that only for restricting time?
The legislation for Thursday? I'm not quite sure I know what you're talking about.
Didn't you say that there was a vote for Thursday in the House?
No, one of the callers did. He was talking about a commercial that had been running on the station a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, okay. Well, isn't there some sort of legislation pending, whether it's this Thursday or some other time, for restricting the time or upgrading the time that it takes to buy a gun?
There are, to the best of my knowledge, two pieces of legislation that have any chance at all of passage in Tallahassee and approval. Those two pieces of legislation, first of all, one would ban military assault type rifles such as the Uzi, such as the AK-47. The other piece of legislation would require a 7 working day waiting period. They are the two main pieces of legislation.
Okay. I don't see any reason why the average person would, without any strong criminal motive, would have a problem with waiting 7 days for a handgun, since I think, as has already been demonstrated, the only purpose of a handgun is for shooting people for the most part, or for target sport. And I guess there are a lot of people that do that, although I think their motive, same as mine, I might add, is ultimately probably to become well enough versed with the gun that if you ever found yourself in a threatening situation to want to shoot somebody...
Well, we all know that most of the targets, or at least it would seem that most of the targets in the shooting gallery ranges that we're speaking of are outlines of human beings.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what the average person has a handgun for. I know I have several handguns. I haven't shot them in a long time. I'm not a gun enthusiast as such. I have several handguns in my home, and they're for the purpose of defense, and I would not hesitate in a second to use them to the capacity of their bullet content.
Well, you see, that's one of the problems, because more often than not, if you do hesitate a second, you won't end up shooting your neighbor.
Say that again now?
I said that's part of the problem. You see, like that woman who was married to the cop a few weeks ago who didn't hesitate for a second to use her gun?
Yeah, but you know, and while that's a negative side, too, it's certainly a tragic situation, there's another possibility, too, in the day and age where people are mysteriously found, like the preacher here over the weekends, wherever it was in the country, Michigan or something, where he and his family were, 5 people, I think, were murdered in their home next to the parish. And I think protection in a day and age like we have today, at least in a large metropolitan area like Tampa is becoming, it's real difficult for the police to be everywhere at once, and it's impossible.
I appreciate that, but let's see if we can't walk through something. If there is one gun, then the odds are that somebody can get that gun and use it against you. But if there's only one gun out there, the odds are that it won't be used. But if there are 2 guns, or 3, or 10, or 20, the more guns you have, the greater the odds are that it will be used against you. And while it well may be that there are so many guns out there today that your odds aren't too good, should we continue to make them worse?
Well, yeah, I think we have to, because you're forgetting an important element, and that is that you being a large man and myself being a large man, we're not necessarily threatened on an average day walking through the streets. But a man who is small of frame, or even older for that matter, or young, I guess, but at least a small person in a world of seeming giants of 200-pound people, a gun becomes probably to that person an equalizer, and a needed one, I would think, because...
Then let me suggest this to you. 47% of the people in this country supposedly own a gun.
Right.
60% of those people live in the South. So the odds are 6 in 10 that someone that you accost in the South has a gun. The crime rates are higher, for the most part, in the South than they are in other areas of the country. Why do you think that is? Because the odds are against the person being unarmed.
Well, see, I don't know how to comment on that type of statistic, because I don't, the statistics don't interest me as much as what I could perceive as a personal situation. And I know that for myself, at least, to answer your question of why would, if there's 1 gun versus 2 versus 3, that's all true. But for the purpose of self-protection, even being a large person like you are, if you were confronted by 2 or 3 larger persons, or large people, maybe not even half your size, you might need an equalizer. And I think that's where, in the day and age we're at, where I think basically it's like every other avenue that we have in life and every decision, we have to make certain decisions on our own, in our own interest, and without saying, well, we're going to rely on a public service to pull us through, and the police department might be that public service.
Funny how everybody else in the world can rely on a public service to pull them through.
Say that again?
Funny how virtually every other country in the world can rely on a public service to pull them through. My friend, I hate like hell to do it to you, but I'm right up against the news and I gotta run. I thank you.
Bye-bye.
Ray Collins standing by with the WFLA. Where was I? Let's see. Let's go to Tampa. Tampa, you're on here at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Lassiter.
Hi.
I'm glad you're leaving the topic open about guns. You can talk just about anything comes to mind about guns. I wanted to speak about the police union here in Tampa finally coming to an agreement with the city and having a new contract where...
whatsoever to do with guns.
Come on. It does.
No, it doesn't. I'm not going to put up with any convoluted crap. I'm in no mood for it. Do you want to talk about guns or not?
Yeah, it was about the fact that they...
I guess he doesn't. Treasure Island, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Thinking about guns, and the only thing that comes to my mind is the word fear. I think you could substitute gun with fear in any situation, and they're almost interchangeable.
Doubt it very much. I don't think anybody's head's ever been blown off by 32 caliber fear.
32 calibers of fear. Yes, the person holding the gun is the one with the fear. Take the gun away, and all the person has is fear. Either the use of fear to intimidate, or having to buy an instrument of fear because of intimidation. Think about it.
I don't have time to think about it. You know, what in the hell is the matter with you people being so esoteric? You know, give me a break. Palm Harbor, you're on the air at 970 WFLA. Same to you, Palm Harbor. Tampa it is this time. Hi, you're on the air at 970 WFLA. Too bad. Let's try this Tampa line. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a first-time caller, so I'm a little nervous. I'm a man of 52 years old. I'm a truck driver. Been on the road for 28 years. And as far as the cooling off period, I have no problem with that. I think everybody should be checked out before they purchase a gun. But I'd like to say that being a truck driver, I ran 48 states in Canada. And through the years, I ran into several problems where a truck driver carrying large amounts of money, these people that hung around the truck stops and stuff back in the late 60s and early 70s figured that they were a good mark, so they started hitting on them. Everybody started carrying a gun. In New York City, they got the Sullivan Law. But yet, if you pull up to the George Washington Bridge, if they had semis there, for every truck that pulled through there, they could take a gun off of them semis and fill them semis up day after day after day. But that was the only thing we had to solve our problem out on the road, which was our own problem, because if you travel from state to state...
Well, wait a second. Aren't the good citizens in the state of New York, don't they have the right not to want people to bring guns into their state?
Well, that's what I was getting at. Okay. They do not bother you. If you're an out-of-state truck coming into the state of New York, they will not bother you. Just as long as they had safety checks, DOT, ICC, right here in the state of Florida. Years ago, they had the Florida Railroad Commission. Now they got the DOT. As long as that gun was in that truck and it was unloaded, there was no shells in it, they would, just overlook it. Because if you go into Cleveland, you go into Boston, you go into Pittsburgh. I was born and raised in New Jersey. I come from a little town, Perth Amboy, up on the waterfront.
Uh-huh.
And the people up there, when I was a kid going to school, they were making zip guns out of car antennas, a key, a block of wood, and a 22 shell. But as far as gun control, I have no problem with it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care. Again, what we need around here is traffic report control, at least a 7-day cooling off period. Gary McHenry, my good buddy and friend.
Dear Mr. Mistako.
Dear Mr. Mistako.
Running down my traffic reports. Both reports, he's made derogatory comments about my report.
I-75,
embarrassing me in front of the millions of fans.
US 19.
Go ahead, Gar. Just start the tape.
Traffic conditions right now, moving okay on the Howard Franklin Bridge, east and westbound.
It's always slow at this time of the day.
No. Lumsden and Paul's and Brandon. Did you know there was a car overturned there? Huh?
How long's it been there?
I don't know. About 35 minutes.
Probably 4 or 5 weeks.
800 block of Jackson Street. And look at that pileup in Cofer Brothers Auto Salvage. Oh, no, that's supposed to be there. Lakeview, west of Hercules, pedestrian involved at that point in Clearwater. You will find emergency equipment on the scene. Fletcher Avenue.
You want to do, but if you've been listening to McHenry, his traffic reports seem to be getting more and more personalized. And would you really want to be the star of a Gary McHenry traffic report with a dirty car? Well, of course you wouldn't. I can help you out. You've come to the right place. Yes, I'm going to refer you to none other than Dr. Sobel. No, I'm referring you, of course, to the Grand Prix Car Wash. Just think how awful it would be. Oh, you would be so embarrassed. We don't want you to be embarrassed, and on top of that, we don't want your car to rot. If you keep it clean, it's much less likely to rot, as well as be mentioned on the McHenry traffic report, which, of course, seem to run just about every time you take a breath. But that's beside the point, too. 3 locations to serve you. 1880 Gulf to Bay Boulevard, right across the street from the Clearwater High School. In Seminole, 10471 Park Boulevard. That you will find about a half a block east of Seminole Boulevard. And the newest location, 3622 Gandy Boulevard in South Tampa, not too far, about a half a block away from the crosstown. That way your car won't rot. If McHenry starts picking on you from up above and mentions you, you won't feel embarrassed. The Grand Prix Car Wash, we recommend them. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA. You called back to apologize, Tampa, right?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Wasted your time then. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Bob. Listen, I've been listening to all this talk about gun control and so forth, but it seems to me nobody has a really, not the legislators and not the special interest groups or even all the hysterical people with their own viewpoints don't have a reasonable position on the thing. They don't look at it in a rational way. First of all, the 7-day waiting period just arbitrarily doesn't make much sense. If it was going to be 7 days to do a background check on someone, it might serve some purpose. And that's the important thing, is to get a background check on whoever's going to own a weapon. Right now in Florida, anybody can walk into a store, present a driver's license, falsely answer the questions on the form, which nobody verifies, and walk out with a gun. So if they can do a background check, that'll serve some purpose. It'll keep the hands out of people who have already committed crimes and so forth. On the other hand, just trying to ban so-called assault weapons, which they try to pass bills which would have covered probably about 80% of guns that are available, such as Metzenbaum bill in the Congress was proposing anything with a removable magazine over 5 shots, which would have outlawed about 80% of the types of guns you can buy. That's not reasonable either.
Cops who are facing these things out on the streets seem to feel it's reasonable.
Excuse me?
The cops who are facing these things out on the streets seem to feel it's reasonable.
Well, what about the 6-shot revolver? I think anyone who wants to commit a crime or kill somebody can do the job with a 6-shot revolver as well. So do you propose...
but 6-shot revolvers don't tend to penetrate cinder block walls and steel doors and things like that.
Neither does a 10-shot Ruger 22 pistol, which was on the banned list of Metzenbaum's bill. So it's not rationally thought out. They got to sit down and figure out what they're trying to accomplish. Do they want to disarm the population and get rid of the Second Amendment to the Constitution?
Beg your pardon, sir. The Second Amendment of the Constitution does not guarantee the individual's right to have guns. What the Second Amendment of the Constitution, sir, does is guarantee the rights of states to have guns. And what the Supreme Court has, in essence, decided in its decision concerning the right of citizens in this country to have guns is that since the U.S. Constitution does not prevent it, the Constitution in this country says what it doesn't cover is left up to the states. You have no constitutional provision, sir, for guns whatsoever. Handguns, any kind of guns.
I think you're probably the only person with that point of view, because definitely...
No, sir, I'm not. Don't insult me, friend. Don't insult me. I'm not the only person with that point of view.
It's very clear that...
Sir, you apparently do not know your Constitution. The Constitution does not deal with you. It deals with a state, sir. It is a document that deals with the federal government and the individual states, not you. Your state constitution deals with you. Go back and study it a little bit more, then call me back, 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 990-WFLA. In the other one, 461-9352, 461-WFLA. It's a real easy one today, if you'll play by the rules, and don't try to tell me what the Constitution says. I know what it says, especially if you don't know what it says. Real easy one today. The topic is guns. Anything you want to say about them, except if you're trying to somehow tie in a union labor dispute with the city of Tampa and its mayor. That doesn't quite get it. But Ray Collins standing by at the WFLA News Desk. Maybe it'll be 3 of the custom homes that have already been built as models there at Woodridge. Not sure what's going to catch your eye at first, but I'll tell you this much. Before you leave, all 3 will have caught your attention. See, Woodridge is a 90s site development that's just your size. Just perfect. Beautiful. The trees. The little lakes. The birds. The fine homes going up. The beautiful surroundings. Woodridge. See, Woodridge is located on Livingston Avenue, about a half a mile north of County Line Road. And Woodridge is just the kind of place where you'd want to build your dream house. And it's so much easier to build your dream house at Woodridge because you deal directly with the developer. It's not one of these humongous mega-city places where they come in and bulldoze down all the trees and just throw some houses here, there, and the other place and walk away from it. No, not Woodridge. Low taxes, good schools, sewer and water already there, low impact fees. Get in touch with Don Larson, the developer. Let me give you his telephone number, okay? It's 960-2707. 960-2707. Woodridge. Gotta see it to believe it. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
How you doing, Bob?
Fine, thanks.
Good. I wanted to start off with the comparison. When we talk about what guns we're going to maybe put sanctions against and stuff, the assault weapon, I've heard a lot of people say that, you don't need an assault weapon as a hunting rifle, but a lot of people don't understand that even the AR-15, which is one of the main ones they're trying to get rid of, you may disagree that it's an assault weapon or not, but it does fire the same shell as a hunting rifle. Now, I agree that there's no need for 20 rounds, but if whatever the gun comes standard with, you should be allowed to have. For instance, with I guess what mine will carry, the 9mm handgun, that carries, I believe, 14 shells. So you can't place them in assault weapons and say assault weapon is not a good hunting rifle, because it fires the same shell. So the range and the accuracy and stuff is pretty much the same as a 30-06 or a 223. And as far as the 7-day waiting period goes, I'm against it because I feel that, as most people does feel, that once they do start regulating it, there's no end to it. It'll go to a 10-day period.
I beg your pardon, sir. Federal governments and state governments have been regulating gun sales for years and years and years and years and years.
In the state of Florida?
Yeah, even in the state of Florida.
And another comparison, you hear a lot of people. Well, no, I'm not aware of any regulations in the state of Florida except for under 21 for a handgun.
Sir, you see, the last bit of gun legislation in the state of Florida was stripping away from all the counties and the municipal governments their gun laws, which some of them were fairly severe.
And to listen to your show,
details, right, sir?
Right. It's the majority of the people are against it, but the proof is that the majority of the people that call us the show are the fringe groups, whether you like it or not, just the same way as when the abortion subject comes up, the most of the people that call are against it, but when the pro-choicers does come out, you see that the pro-choice, like over the weekend, there was a pro-choice demonstration that was like twice the size of the anti-abortion demonstration. So, I think that a lot of people don't call and don't say anything. And, to listen to your show, you would think that the whole state of Florida agrees with it, but it's not true. So,
What's not true, sir?
Well, I'm saying that by listening to your show, the consensus would be that people are in favor of gun legislation and waiting periods and stuff. And it's simply not true.
Well, I'm sorry, sir. All the polls that have been taken, which is, of course, the only scientific measure, would indicate it's quite the opposite. People are in favor of restrictions. in some in cases of keeping guns away from lunatics and psychopaths and things of that nature.
And a 7-day waiting period. I know this is a wild scenario, but say a woman is threatened by her ex-husband or something, and he's going to come by, and a lot of times it's been documented where the police say that we can't do anything until he does something. So she's supposed to wait 7 days for a weapon, The police won't protect her, and she's not allowed to protect herself for 7 days. In 7 days, it could be too late. So, thank you very much.
Take care. 990-9352 in Hillsborough. That's a 9. Another 9, a 0, followed by another 9, a 3, a 5, and a 2. Or if you wish to look at it alphabetically, that's 990-WFLA. In the other county, 461-9352, 461-WFLA. Again, if you wish to look at it alphabetically. Real simple one today, guns. That was the entire monologue. We may even do another one-word monologue tomorrow. You'll just have to tune in and find out. Not that there isn't time left today. There is. There's still another hour yet to go. So the entire monologue has been repeated for you. Again, guns. You can respond to the monologue in any shape, manner, or form you like, except, of course, if you want to get involved in the police union strike, which I don't want to get involved in. Good grief. (990-9352) in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in Pinellas. And what I mean by just guns and giving the phone numbers, anything that you've got to say about guns. Not trying to lead the conversation in any direction. I'm not triggered by anything in particular that happens, such as the 7-day cooling off period. I couldn't care less. For the purposes of this conversation, I couldn't care less. And it's just that I just felt like saying guns. As a matter of fact, I may have another one tomorrow. The new one-word monologue. 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in Pinellas. But I do caution you, if you say something that doesn't quite fit together, like trying to tell us about how the Constitution of the United States of America guarantees you the right to have a .22 under your pillow or up your wazoo or wherever you like to keep it, then you'll get some grief because it doesn't, and we all know that, so be ready for that. 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in Pinellas. Guns. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yeah, Bob, this is my first time calling, and I see why now, standing at a payphone this long. The 7-day period, I don't see why they can't make that for rifles, pistols, shotguns, anything else. If you need a gun for hunting, for target shooting, or whatever, you know about it a week before you're going to do it. I've got 20 years in the military. I was a marksmanship instructor in the security police, the military police. I've got guns in my house. I'll have guns in my house. But if I wanted to buy a new gun, I wouldn't mind waiting 7 days to get it. It's just there's no big hurry on getting one.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got a simple way, if they could do it, it wouldn't solve a problem, but it would help a hell of a lot. If they would just have any convicted felons or people in mental institutions or somebody that shouldn't be allowed to buy a gun, put a certain letter on their driver's license, enter the driver's license number. And then the gun shop, when you show his driver's license, he look at the number and says, hey, you can't buy a gun. I just took 2 guns out of a hog shop for a guy that was going to lose them, and I filled out the form. The guy looked at my driver's license, and that form goes in his filing cabinet. Nobody ever sees it. And it's the same thing when you buy a gun. There's really no checks at all on it, and they should be. I'm a gun advocate, but I believe you should have some checks and controls on them.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Take care. 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in the other place. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yeah, Bob Lassiter?
Yeah.
I'm a first-time caller. I've been listening to your show here. And I just wanted to say, a guy called a few minutes ago, and he said about a woman living alone and her husband's coming after her, she needs to get a gun, needs to get in a hurry. Now, the odds of that happening are real slim. But, I'm definitely in favor for the 7-day waiting period. I'm from Pennsylvania, and up there we call it a cooling off period, where they run a check on your license. They run a check on you, and you gotta just wait for a little while. If anything comes up, you don't get your gun. But and my uncle, he's a gun dealer, and he has a special permit. He's been checked by the FBI. He has all kinds of automatic weapons. He's got some from World War II, and he's a safe, perfectly safe person to have a gun like this.
Well, I don't know. He was perfectly safe apparently the time that they checked him. But how about tomorrow?
Well,
Can
you
we
have
be
to
sure?
you have to renew this license every year.
Uh-huh. What does that entail besides sending in a few dollars?
It entails the FBI checking your background, your total background, any arrest. You know, this is to get a dealer's license to carry, not to carry with you, excuse me, to keep, automatic weapons.
So they check the next door neighbors to make sure, you haven't been parading around in your underwear or something? I'm serious.
Well, if he had been parading around in his underwear, then if the police had heard about it or if he had been arrested for it, that would show up on his record, and that would be a definite problem.
But only if the police knew about it.
Well, that's true. Only if the police knew about it.
No, my only point is that I'm not overly impressed one way or the other. I don't know a better way, but I'm not overly impressed that because on such and such a date someone was certified to be a nice, good, normal, average, gun-deserving citizen. Things change. People change.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know of a better way to do it.
Well,
but it doesn't impress me.
You can't just tell everybody. You cannot have these things at all. Some people.
Well, why couldn't you?
Why not? It's a constitutional right. You have the right to bear arms.
No, sir, you do not. The state of Florida has a right to bear arms, and since the U.S. Constitution does not take control over your right to bear arms, therefore the state of Florida has the right to tell you whether or not you can bear arms, but the U.S. can withdraw that right at any time by simply passing a constitutional amendment. But the U.S. Constitution does not deal with your right to have guns at all.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. Like I said, I'm in favor, definitely, of the 7-day waiting period. Because during the 7 days...
But I had asked you a question. Why should you have guns?
Why should you have guns?
Yeah.
For home defense. I myself have a shotgun in my house. I never go hunting. As a matter of fact, I've only fired it a couple times at a range just to get the feel of how it worked. And if anybody ever broke into my house, put my family in danger.
Well, wouldn't it be a hell of a lot more sensible to have a safe community than to have a community with people living behind locked doors with guns?
Oh, sure, it would be. It would be a lot more sensible, but it's not feasible in this lifetime.
It's feasible in almost every other country in the world. Why not this country?
I think that's a problem with our judicial system and our law enforcement system there.
No, sir, it's a problem with our love of guns. You see, most countries don't have guns all over the place, and so the citizens don't continually shoot each other and then feel as though they have this need to lock themselves up in their homes and sit there with guns waiting for somebody to break in.
Yeah, but also a lot of countries that don't have guns, these people are also led around like sheep. I'm referring to
France, West Germany, Japan, England, Italy, led around like sheep. Scandinavia.
Well, my point is
South Africa.
What's that?
South Africa, I think, is a country that, if memory serves me, has relatively low handgun ownership. I could be wrong on that one, but the others I know for a fact.
Well, my opinion is, right, that until something is done about the crime and...
How are you going to do something about the crime, sir, as long as you have this constant proliferation of arms?
You have to screen people better. Find out who is safe to have the guns and who is not.
Well, who's safe?
People who are not involved in drugs, not involved in crime, are not going out robbing people, shooting people, killing people.
No, you're not very likely, sir, to have people break into your house with guns and rob you.
Yeah, and more than likely those guns they were using are illegally obtained.
I said you are not very likely to have people break into your house with guns and rob you.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, it is not likely, but it is entirely possible.
Your wife is probably the one that's going to shoot you.
My wife?
Yeah, you're far more likely to be shot by your wife than those big black dudes from College Hill that you're worried about.
Oh, that's very possible, too.
Statistically, it's the case.
Yeah, I'm sure it is, statistically.
They come home and catch you with that, cute little next-door neighbor that moved in and grab that shotgun, do you a number. Whoa! You be gone.
Alrighty. Well, I'll tell you one thing I do like about this country is this is a free country, and everybody has the right to an opinion.
Should I play the Star Spangled Banner or something? I'm not sure why you said that.
Well,
Actually, people are entitled to opinions in almost every country on the face of the earth.
As long as you agree with their opinion in some countries.
Which ones did you have in mind?
I'm referring to communist countries.
Are you referring to the communist countries, for example, right now, that like China, that's beset with marches, and the Soviet Union that now is writing editorials against the government? Which are you referring to? Maybe Nicaragua, where there's a newspaper that calls for the violent overthrow of... which communist country did you have in mind? That's okay, sir. Don't worry about it. 990-9352 in Hillsborough. Sarasota. Hi, Sarasota. Pity poo. Sarasota couldn't wait. I can well understand when you live in Sarasota. Madeira Beach, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yes, Bob. I've been listening with great amusement to the hunters that are calling in and the discussion of whether they want 5 or 20 rounds to kill some poor helpless animal. I would be much happier if we would figure out a way to arm the animal to at least make it a sporting contest. Anyway, whatever. The second comment was the other day you had a thing about what to do with Exxon.
Sir.
It relates to guns.
Sir.
It relates to guns. I would suggest perhaps we send guns to the top executives, send a pistol with 1 round in it to the top executives of Exxon with a request that they perform their honorable duty. Thank you.
I know this really has nothing whatsoever to do with Gary McHenry or the traffic report, but just as we started the report, the great Fava and Sliwa just walked down the hall toting these incredibly large boxes.
Ooh.
Is it lunchtime already? Whoa! Gary McHenry is standing by with a WFLA traffic report. It's going to be a terrific traffic report, won't it, Gary?
Maybe Sliwa's got some new equipment for the traffic reporting, huh? Some laser two-ways or something, or microwave dishes.
I don't know, but they were interviewing some really good-looking fox this afternoon for a traffic reporting job. Yeah.
For a traffic reporting job?
Oh, had legs that ran from here to Cleveland.
You sure it wasn't
Ohio?
You sure it wasn't like the traffic department downstairs or something?
No, I don't think so. No, not that traffic, because they were saying things like can you fly? And she said, whoa, I don't know. And I said, no problem, over. You can do them from the desk. Do you know your way around the area? And she said, oh, no, I just got here from Dayton. And they said, no problem, don't worry about it, we'll get you a map.
I guess they'll want her to be up here with me so I can teach her all the ropes, huh, buddy?
No notice anything about that.
I gotta call Mr. Maseko. Traffic right now.
Well, actually, you should be pretty pleased, Gary, because I understand they're going to give you a very, very large chunk of the company, a lot of stock or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said they're going to give you the business.
I don't think that's what they meant, Bob. In Pinellas County, pretty depressed now. 66th Avenue North, just a little bit.
The subject of guns, I guess, you could look at a couple of different angles there in terms of a waiting period or to make them legal or not, for example. In terms of a waiting period, I'm not convinced that a 7-day waiting period is going to make any more difference than a 1-day or a 30-day or a 6-month waiting period as far as that goes.
Well, I think a 6-month waiting period would be very good because a lot of people who like guns have relatively short attention spans, and they probably forget that they wanted one.
Well, I'd have to disagree with that to the point that I'm somewhat of a gun enthusiast myself, and I personally wouldn't mind if it was a 30-day or a 6-month or a 1 year, because I'm not investing in any gun to necessarily kill anyone with. It's just kind of a hobby that I personally enjoy. But by the same token, if a 6-month law was passed, that would be fine with me, I guess. In terms of making guns legal or not, I'm kind of the opinion that if guns were, say, all of a sudden to be illegal, everyone turned their guns in, guns would probably go the same way that alcohol did pre-prohibition or perhaps drugs are now. I think it's still going to be a problem.
Well, it's very difficult to make guns in your bathtub.
Well, that's true, but it's not very difficult to buy a gun illegally. I think you would agree with that, wouldn't you?
For the time being, that's true. But you see, we didn't get to this position with guns overnight. It took 200 and some odd years. It may take another 200 years to get rid of them.
Well, and it's taken a couple of thousand, I guess, to bring alcohol to where it is now, which is still, still contributes quite a few murders or deaths, I guess, if you will, a year. Perhaps the point we might want to look at is perhaps education to help control the problem that we have.
But then again, that may go the same way of education with drugs.
What do you mean by education to control the problem that we have?
Well,
you just say no to bullets?
Well, we're kind of saying no to drugs. I don't know.
Probably it would be just as effective as that program.
Well, which is, I think, that's on a thin line in either event. I think in terms of the people talking about, hunting rifles and that type of thing, I just sold an AK-47 myself. I didn't buy the gun to shoot deer with. I just kind of got it to own one at the time. I turned around and sold it.
I hope you didn't buy it to shoot deer with, unless you're fond of, deer burger.
Well, that's the thing. I'm not into that either. I think the idea of these people out there, I'm a lifetime NRA member myself. I think the people out there saying, hey, we need an AK-47, it doesn't matter, I think it's a bunch of bull. I don't think that there's any real practical purpose of having an AK-47 or an Uzi or a MAC-10 or anything else. And I've owned most of those guns at one point or another for no other point than for a collection purpose. But these people out there trying to defend their AK-47s and Uzis, I think it's just totally ridiculous.
Doesn't it bother you as a member of the NRA that you belong to an organization who I appreciate does a great deal in the way of education and teaching people how to use their guns safely? I appreciate all of that. But you belong to an organization that absolutely tells bald-faced lies?
Well, I think they have got a bit way off to the right, I suppose. That is a true statement. And that's why I'm basically saying what I'm saying in the fact is AK-47s for hunting and that type of thing. I think it's just total garbage. I own several handguns now, and again, it's not a matter of going out and wanting to shoot anybody up. It's just for collection purposes, and I enjoy shooting on weekends at the range and that type of thing.
You sound to me like a really nice man, like a together man, like an intelligent man, like an articulate man, like a man I'd like to sit down and have a beer with sometime.
Sounds great, Bob.
But have you ever found yourself saying, God, I'm so mad I could kill you?
Well, I've not. I think we all have flashes of anger on occasion. I've never, Lord willing, I would never get to the point where I would want to kill someone, unless, of course, the assault was made on my wife or myself. Of course, in that instance, I have a 125-pound Rottweiler at home too, so I don't foresee any real problems there for my personal safety, to be quite frank. But there are a lot of unstable people out there. And I think with a drink or two, there are a lot more things that I guess that situation would be easy to get into for a lot of people out there, and obviously it is.
My friend, I thank you much.
Thank you.
Okay, leave the dog and the guns home when we have the beer, okay?
Sounds great.
All right, I'll have a Black Russian, actually. Be good. Ray Collins standing by at the WFLA News Desk. Ray?
Thanks, Bob. 5:30. I'm Ray Collins, News Radio.
You're probably sick and tired of the expense, sick and tired of the health hazards, sick and tired of the smell, sick and tired of who knows what. Well, when you make up your mind, when you really make up your mind, please get in touch with Dr. Robert Sobel. Because when you make up your mind, you're just 1 week away. 1 week away from being a non-smoker. 2 one-hour sessions, a total cost of $39.50. Quit for life. Let me give you the telephone number. 787-5530. 787-5530. Now, that number is in Clearwater, which is where Dr. Sobel's office is located, where he conducts courses afternoons and evenings. And if you can't make it to Clearwater, there is a book and a tape available. But one of the best ways of quitting is to get together a group of friends. You can't buy them.
Well, this I'm talking 17 rounds. See, this 20 rounds that they're cutting out, right? Sorry. Right?
Go ahead,
correct?
Sir. Go ahead.
Okay. My other thought is on this on the waiting period. I'm thinking probably 85 or 90% of the people that go out there and buy these guns are people that already own weapons. I mean, personally, I own 7 weapons, and the only thing I can see is that's going to make it harder for let's see.
For the other 10 to 15%, perhaps, that shouldn't be getting them right away.
Well,
is that what you're trying to say?
Well, what I'm thinking is I'm not against the 7-day waiting period because I already own weapons. What I'm getting at is that they should have a way to screen the people that don't own weapons. You know, because the paperwork's going to be astronomical. You know, with the ones that.
Gee, it isn't for insurance companies.
For what?
For insurance companies. I think far more people probably own life insurance than own guns, don't you?
Sure.
Well, the investigation, the background checks the insurance companies do don't bog them down. And they do far...
I don't know anything about insurance. I don't own insurance.
You don't own insurance. Well, you try to buy some insurance and try to buy, for example, let's say a $100,000 policy.
Well, I
you
do
know
have
what the insurance,
PIP.
you know what the insurance company is going to find? I'm talking about life insurance. Do you know what the insurance company is going to find? It's going to find out that you own 7 guns. They probably won't sell it to you.
I wouldn't buy insurance anyway. It's a waste of money. Well, anyway...
Well, yeah, I guess your survivors can sell off your guns when you die.
Yeah, the reason I own guns is because I like them. I mean, you know, I'd like to go out and shoot a few rounds off, get familiar with my weapon. And I'm not thinking about holding off the Russians or anything like that when I get them. But say I own like one of each caliber weapons is my main goal. And when you can't get rounds, the rounds I do come across, I'll have weapons to shoot them. That's the thought I have in my mind. And I'm thinking about protection for one thing.
Protection from who?
Well, protection from anybody that wants to get me.
Why would somebody want to get you?
Well, there are people out there. I can think of one case where, you know, some fanatic gets out there and starts shooting people in a parking lot or something like that. Well, when he comes to me, he's going to have stuff coming back at him.
Oh, you carry your guns with you?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
You, of course, have a weapons permit to do so.
No, I carry them legally. Well, I mean, I don't carry them on my person.
You carry them illegally?
I don't carry them on my person.
Oh, so then you wouldn't have the guns when the nut in the parking lot came for you?
I keep them in my car.
Where do you keep them in your car?
Sitting next to me.
Well, that's illegal, isn't it?
What?
So, in other words, you're a criminal.
Well, I keep them in a holster, and you know, long as you keep you can carry a weapon in plain view, as long as you have it in a case. I carry.
And there's a strap around it, so it can't slide out.
Well, I carry mine in a holster, and then I keep them inside of a case, sitting on the seat next to me.
Right next to you.
Oh yeah.
With where you can reach down and put your hand on it.
Oh yes.
Isn't that illegal?
No, I have to open it up. I have to open the case up, take it out of the holster. If you keep it in a glove compartment.
So in other words, you're going to say,
Mr. Lunatic, could you hold it a minute? I'm having trouble getting my holster open. Hold it, Mr. Lunatic.
In other words, that's what would basically have to happen.
It takes, I'd say, probably a second and a half to unzip the case.
Mm-hmm. Well, a pretty good marksman can get off a couple of shots, especially if it's an automatic. My goodness, how many shots could you get off in a second and a half while you're sitting there fiddling with your case?
He can probably get 6 off in a second and a half. 6 rounds, I'd say, with a semi-automatic weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Or a double-action revolver.
Mm-hmm. So it wouldn't probably give you very much protection in that scenario.
Well, by the time you duck down, somebody starts shooting at you, you're going to duck, of course.
Well, of course, any decent kind of weapon's going to go right through your car door anyway.
That's true.
So, ducking down ain't going to really stop it.
It's the thought that counts.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've took up too much time of yours already.
Not at all. Thank you very much. 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in Pinellas. Ray Collins is at the WFLA News Desk. Ray.
Thanks, Bob. She claims spouse abuse.
Previous credit problems, maybe even a bankruptcy. Listen to me. Go out this weekend. Go out tonight if you can. Be realistic. Find a house. Find a house that you can afford. Now, if you're doing Town and Country Mortgage and Investment Corporation, sure, they're in business to make a profit and to stay alive and to pay their bills, but they're also in business to help people. Town and Country Mortgage and Investment Corporation. Good credit, no credit, slow credit, doesn't make that much difference. Let me give you the telephone number, okay? Town and Country is a licensed mortgage broker located at 14502 North Dale Mabry, and the telephone number is 2648. 2648. Back to the phones we go. Largo. Hi, Larg. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Okay, I can barely hear you, but thank you for a great show and a very timely topic with the legislation going on now. I've been very hesitant to pick up the phone with the thought I'm carrying, but Bob, I think it's important to recognize that if we limit the access to these tools of destruction from these nuts that are doing these terrible things with guns, if we limit access to these directional tools, if you point this gun at a victim, a potential victim, you aim it, you pull the trigger, the projectile will go where you have aimed the gun and will land there and do whatever destruction it's capable of. Now, if we limit access to these tools, will these deranged individuals pick up another tool? And Bob, I'm talking about an omnidirectional bomb, a tool that doesn't know where to go. It goes everywhere. Will we be opening up a Beirut?
Oh, give me a break, sir. I mean, come on, opening up a Beirut. Sir, you know, no matter what we do, there are always going to be people getting murdered.
Yep.
People getting murdered with bar stools. People getting murdered with...
kitchen knives.
You've got it, and kitchen plates, the whole bit. However, the fewer weapons of destruction we have available, the fewer people that will be killed.
A neat thought, Bob, but I disagree.
It's not a neat thought, sir. It's statistics.
I disagree there.
Well, you can disagree all you want, sir, but if you've got 2 guns, then you only have 2 guns available to use for murder. If you have 20 million guns, sir, then you have 20 million available.
Okay, Bob,
so if you cut that 20 million down to 10, then you have cut the number of guns available for murder in 1/2.
I would love to believe it's so simple, Bob, but it's simply not that simple. Think about this now.
Sir, I'm sorry, it simply is that simple.
Okay, just hear me out, if you will. I didn't want the conversation to go quite this far because I don't want to plant any seeds in these deranged minds that might happen to be listening. But,
sir, there are very few deranged minds listening, and the only derangement of the minds listening to this show are people who just still think that Ronald Reagan was the greatest thing that ever happened.
Well, then, okay, that's neat. But
I'll people to go out and kill people.
Bob, I'll speak freely then. Do you know how easy it is to put together a little bomb that'll blow apart a car?
Yes, sir. I know how easy it is to drop a half a tab of acid in the water supply too. On and on and on and on. That's right, sir. They're all very easy. I'm not worried, sir, about some guy climbing up in a bell tower, taking shots at 40 people in downtown Tampa. But I'm very, very concerned with my next door neighbor getting a little bit pissed because I let my dog dump on his lawn.
Yeah.
That's how I'm likely to get shot, sir.
All right. So you take away this directional tool that's going to affect you.
Sir, I don't really remember saying it would be possible to take it away, but I'd like to make sure that before my neighbor can go out and buy a gun to shoot me because my dog's dumping on his lawn, I'd like to make sure that we have a reasonable certainty that he's not a lunatic, that he doesn't have a long history of beating people up, that he doesn't have a history of spousal abuse, that he doesn't have a history of drinking to excess, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because he's my threat, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Not the guy building the bombs.
Yeah. What do you think?
Are you serious? Did you really say, what did I say?
No, you said about the guy building the bomb.
Right, he's not the threat to me, sir.
Well, he most certainly is. Perhaps you don't realize it.
There are very few people who have been blown up this year in this country by maniacs building bombs.
Because they have the mindset.
Tens of thousands of people, sir, have suffered gunshot wounds and, even death.
Uh-huh.
Tens of thousands, sir.
All right, let's say...
Let's not say anything. Let's save it for tomorrow. See what kind of word I can come up with tomorrow. It's depressing sometimes. It's interesting, though, at other times. Ted Webb, speaking of interesting. Webb. Again? Are they punishing you or something?